Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Al Jones. I am the Chief of Police for Arlington. As we have publicly stated, Arlington Police Department is investigating a critical incident that occurred October 20th, 2021, in which an officer fired his service weapon. A person was pronounced deceased due to this use of force, and the officer who fired his weapon, along with another officer who was also on the scene, were placed on administrative leave while the incident is being investigated. Per our normal protocols for such incidents, the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office has publicly identified the deceased individual as 40-year-old Jesse Joseph Fischer. Mr. Fischer was the driver of the vehicle that led the police on a slow speed pursuit, at the conclusion which the use of force occurred. In order to be transparent and keep the public informed, I have decided to release the body-worn and the vehicle dashboard camera footage related to the incident. We'll review that momentarily. But first, let me say this. Prior to this news conference, I met with the family of Mr. Fischer. We reviewed the video with them. We answered their questions. I also viewed the video with the stakeholders behind me who were here now, who's here now with me. And I know a few of them want to make some statements, so if you don't mind just coming forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Ramon Venable. I'm with the Latino Advisory Council under Mayor Jim Ross. After looking at this video, it was very disturbing. And in my opinion, and I'm sure in the opinion of a lot of us, we wonder, how did this ever happen? Why did it happen? But the action that our chief took today is something that I think is not only the best decision, but the right decision for our community. I commend him and respect his decision. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Ronnie Goins, and I had the privilege of serving on the Arlington Unity Council, and I chaired the policing subcommittee. After meeting with our chief and looking at the body cam footage, I cannot simply tell you how elated I am to have APD and our chief move as swiftly as it has moved in this situation. There will be those who will say that maybe the chief has moved quite quickly or too quickly. I would say that the only individuals that may feel that way are those who are not the family members of Jesse, who has been deceased. So not only am I proud of our chief, I am encouraged for the culture of our city, that the precedence that Chief Al Jones is setting for the city of Arlington. And as you see the footage, you will be as grieved and shaken as all of us were upon reviewing the footage. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Javier Najera. I'm also part of the advisory council for Mayor Ross, who's been one to take swift action to include a lot of our longtime residents, which I am of Arlington, nearly 30 years. And thank for Chief Jones to including some of us and letting us come up and share this with him. And a lot of the same things is what I share, the swift action. But most importantly for me is just a layperson and someone who has lived in this city for 30 years is the transparency. The immediacy of the information, as you will see later in the video, to his point, the facts are not going to change the day after tomorrow or later on. And I really appreciate that transparency from Chief Jones.
Hello, my name is Pastor Dr. Stanley Farrell. I'm a part of the Arlington Clergy Partnership here in the city of Arlington, and we come today to stand in support with our chief in regards to this unfortunate incident that's taken place here in our city. In light of the current climate, not only in our city but here across the country, we feel very encouraged and very fortunate to have the chief that we have and the decision he recently made in light of the situation to bring back some confidence in our community and some reassurance in our community. And rest assured that the bridges that may have been torn down in years past are being rebuilt and rebuilt in a manner where we can be a trust and you can feel confident in our Arlington Police. So we thank our police chief and his staff and for what they're doing in this time, this hour. Thank you for your time.
I just want to thank each and every one of the community members who actually stepped up and made a statement. I thoroughly reviewed the video footage for this case. I reviewed other relevant items as well, including interviews that have been conducted. The facts, as we know them today, are not going to change. They're not going to change today, they're not going to change tomorrow, and they're not going to change 6 months from now. The officer who used force against the officer who used force is identified as Robert Phillip, ID 2907. He's a 7-year veteran. As a result of the administrative review, I have decided to terminate his employment. He has been terminated for violating APD's General Order 401.04 A and B. Since I've been the chief in Arlington, I've had 4 guiding principles: transparency, accountability, dignity, and making sure that we treat everybody with dignity and respect, and that our officers be fully engaged with our communities. During my tenure, I wanted APD employees to know that they were part of a family, and I support them 100%. However, make no mistake, I have a responsibility to uphold accountability in this agency, and I will do just that. Lastly, I want to ensure that public knows that Arlington Police Department has some of the best and the most professional officers in the country. That fact is not going to change. We'll now watch the most relevant portions of this video. At the end of this news conference, we'll provide you a full video of the whole incident from start to finish. So thank you. Let's start playing the video, please.
432, we're stopped here at Daniel in Arkansas. Do not move. Turn the car off. Turn it off now. Throw the keys out. Throw the keys out. Throw the keys out. Do it now. Throw the keys out of the car. Do it now. Drop them. Drop them now. Drop the keys now. Drop the keys now. Drop the keys. Do it now. Drop the keys. Do it now. Drop the keys and step out of the car. Do it now. Drop the keys, sir. This is not going to end well for you if you do not drop those keys. You got a lot of stuff going on. What you got going on? Well, right now I've got to deal with you. So step out of the car. Do it now. No, you're not going anywhere else. You're under arrest at this point. Step out of the vehicle. Step out of the vehicle for evading. Step out of the vehicle. Step out of the vehicle. Do it now. Step out of the vehicle. Do it now. Step out of the vehicle. Do it now. You ready to move up? He's got his hands up. Keep your hands out. Keep your hand. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. Do it now. Put your hands out that car now. Put your hands out the car. Both her.
He stopped at all the stop signs going about 20 miles an hour.
He has been going into the opposite lanes of traffic.
Come to the dead end of Carla.
Don't you do it! Don't you do it! He is going into the opposite lanes of traffic.
So with that being said, I will actually take some questions now.
Chief, what's going through your mind when you watch this video?
Let me look at it from two points. So first, as a chief, I have to look and to make sure that looking at the policy piece of it and trying to figure out was about policy broken. That's just from the chief hat. But I'm also looking at it from a dad's perspective. It was disturbing. Today I had to sit down with Mr. Fischers' father to talk about this video. And as a dad, it was very difficult because it was about empathy. It was about sorrow. But also, too, we just wanted to make sure that we are supporting the family. So it was tough.
Chief, the Police Association released a statement in response to this, saying that it was jumping the gun or jumping to conclusions, I should say. What's your response to that, the firing? So
listen, as I said before, I had my internal affairs investigators really take a deep dive into this investigation. I wanted to make sure that we provided our officer a thorough investigation. We actually even interviewed him in full, And, you know, based on some of the statements that he made, we had to look at it from the totality of the situation. But then also, too, you're looking at it from, you know, the community's perspective as well. Because I knew I was going to release this video. Without any type of action with it, the community had been outraged. And that's the last thing I want here in Arlington. I know when I got hired, I talked about transparency. I talked about the respect piece and making sure that we respect. I gave the officer due process because I heard him, or my detectives heard him through the investigation. So what I would say is, no, I didn't rush to judgment. What I would say is the facts that we know today and the video you just saw is not going to change tomorrow, and it's not going to change 6 months from now. So it is what it is. We just saw what I saw. You guys just saw what I saw and what I had to make a tough decision. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't take this decision lightly. It was very tough for me. It was very tough for me, and it's going to be very tough for the agency to move forward to this. And I get that. But that's why I want the officers to know that I support them 110%. And it's about them.
Chief, in your expertise, what would have been the steps to follow in that particular situation previous to the shots?
I'm sorry, say that again now?
What should have been the steps to follow in that situation?
So here it is. There's a number of different things. The policy is about providing alternatives for these officers so they don't have to use force. He could have backed up behind the vehicle and allowed the vehicle to go by. He could have stayed in his vehicle so that he didn't put himself in a situation where he had to use deadly force. So there was a number of options that he could have used. The other thing is, I don't know if you caught it on the video, but he says that we're going down to a dead-end street. We could have blocked the street so he couldn't get by. And we could have dealt with it from that standpoint. We could have been out there with him for numbers of hours until he actually turned himself in. So there was a lot of different options that we could have used, but we didn't. And that, I think, is a failure on our part.
Chief, there's any record of this officer? This is the first incident with this officer here?
Yes, that I know of, yes.
Can you go into what 4104A and B is?
So it's about, as we talked about, making sure that we're, first of all, you can't shoot at moving vehicles and you can't shoot from a moving vehicle. That's part of it. The other part is not putting yourself in a situation where you have to use force. The only time that you should be able to use deadly force if you are protecting yourself or someone else. In this case, I just didn't get that. And by the way, we will provide you, I think we have them in the back room, our policy on the whole thing, so you can actually have that in hand.
Chief, what does it mean to have the folks standing behind you? How important is that?
I've been here for 10 months. My goal was to build community partners, and what I have right behind me is the work that I've done in talking about building the community partners and trust. The thing that I don't want to do and that I didn't want to do with this situation is not release the video, not fire the officer, because that erodes our trust that they have given me. So having them here today means so much to me, and I know it means a lot to the agency as well.
Chief, how do you take this and maybe reinforce the policies that you expect to be followed within the department? How do you communicate to your officers after they see something like that?
Well, it's going to be constant. We have to always talk about our use of force, making sure that we're not putting ourselves in a situation where we tactically disadvantage where we have to. I know we train on it often. So it's just constant communication, it's a constant conversation. And I think that that's what it's all about, making sure that our supervisors at roll calls are talking about how to avoid these situations as we move forward.
You said you spoke with Mr. Fischers' father earlier today. What was his reaction to seeing the video? And what did you say?
So obviously, with any father, when they see something like this, he was very disturbed. I can tell you he was frustrated. He was upset. But I reassured him that this officer will not be working for Arlington Police Department. And I think that helped him out a lot. That actually lowered he had a height where he didn't really want to talk to me. But when I said we terminated the officer, I think that really actually helped him process it a little bit better. But no doubt, he's still going to be upset. He's still going to be angry. What father or what parent wouldn't be?
The second officer we heard in that video, the female, she's on administrative leave, right?
Yes.
Until further. Do you know how long that process takes until she can maybe come back, or how does that work?
Usually, when you're involved in an incident like that, it's usually 7 days.
Chief, do you believe this officer should be prosecuted?
That we're still working through the criminal aspect of it, and I don't want to get into what the DAs should talk about or what they should do. We're going to make sure that we package this case really nice, make sure that we're very thorough with it, and then we can turn it over to them, and they can actually send it to the grand jury, and whatever they may find, they may find. But I just wanted to make sure that on the administrative side that we took swift action, which we did.
You said that on that front, you did a due process and you did speak to the officer yourself?
I didn't. I personally, I didn't interview the officer in terms of the case and all that. We have an internal affairs process, and we have a very robust internal affairs unit. So I allowed them to do the interview. I can tell you this morning I met with the officer, his attorney, and the president from the APA Association. And now that's when we actually talked about the termination and dismissing from the agency, yes.
Have you been briefed on that interview? And if you were, what was said from the officer that at that point, what was his reasoning?
You know, I don't really want to get into that piece of the interview because we still got to have the criminal aspect of it. And I don't want to taint the criminal side by talking about what we did administrative, especially as personnel issue.
Chief,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
head of Fleet has gone on record as saying that the determination is even politically motivated. It's ready to represent the officer. Do you have a response in terms of that particular perspective?
Listen, it's not about politics for me. It's about right and wrong. It's about morals. We have to make sure that we have a moral compass that guide us every single day, and that's how I look at what I do every day. I have a tough job, and there's no doubt about it. But I also have to have a compass that guides me through and how I make decisions, and you know, and I have that. I'm not looking for any type of political aspiration or any clout from any politics. It's not about politics. It's about community trust. It's about being transparent. It's about what I said when I took this job. It's about the community, and that's it. If I didn't take a position as I did, then we're failing the community, and that's not what I want to do.
Chief, can the community expect transparency and the same quickness in different cases that come out in the future regarding other individuals that per se are minority as well?
Yeah, it's about for me. It's about transparency. Listen, I can tell you that a process that we've had has never happened in Arlington like this. I don't think we've ever fired anybody in 2 days, or I would say terminate somebody in 2 days. But it's about what is right. It's about making sure that our community really trusts us, and the only way they're going to trust us if we can be transparent, and that's what it's all about. It's really about transparency.
How many hours of shoot, don't shoot does an officer of that rank typically get?
I couldn't answer that right off the top of my head, but I can tell you that we do all of that training, and we have a simulator, and we have all of that stuff. You know, I just can't tell you what the actual number of hours it is that we train on it.
Okay, everyone, we're going to have 2 more questions, please. 2 more questions.
Chief, in the original report,
There was no mention of any type of substance, but there's been recent reports that called the victim a DWI suspect. Has it been confirmed if he was under the influence of any substance?
So, no, what I'm going to say is this. I tried to make it the initial press release, and I know that my team and we really tried to get it right. Because here it is. We didn't know whether or not if he was DWI or not. We just know we got an emergency medical call that we have somebody slumped over the wheel at the intersection of Pioneer and Daniels. That's the first thing. The second thing everybody keeps asking about is, did he have a criminal record? And that's not important to me either, because we didn't know any of that. All we knew was we had a medical condition. We took a medical condition and made it into a critical incident, and that right there is kind of disturbing to me. We have to do better, and I think we will do better in the future.
Can you say more on the reason why this second officer is on administrative leave, and if you'll be identifying?
So anytime an officer is involved in incident or use of force incident like this, or officer involved shooting, if they witness the actual shooting themselves, we try to put them on medical leave too, administrative leave too, for pretty much more of, not because they did something wrong, but more for so that they can actually decompress the situation. And it's about making sure that we're taking care of our officers and making sure that we're providing them the best service that we can as an agency.
And that's with pay, right?
Yes, sir.
Are you identifying the second officer?
Not at this time, no.
All right, thank you very much.